going to explain the procedure for tonight. He has assembled his committee of town appointees. Vince Graham will be acting in the role of hapless developer supplicant applicant. And Rick Hall and I will be acting in the roles of developers hapless consultants. Let us begin.
I want to call this meeting. I'm sorry. Thank you very much. Didn't realize I was facing the wrong way. I'd like to call this meeting to order of the 563rd meeting of the town's Committee for Status Quo Preservation and Traumatic Change. I expect everyone to be well behaved, on your best comportment, and we shall begin the proceedings shortly. I just want everyone to know that you will all have a chance to speak in 140 characters or less. We will begin with a staff report about this proposed development in our beloved Mount Pleasant. There will then be a presentation from the petitioners of their proposal. Then the committee shall be asked to extend their questions to the presenters, and then we shall open the public hearing, where everyone again will have a chance to comment until we grow bored of you. So, without further ado, please keep the noise in the background down, and no dogs are allowed. We will begin with the staff report. Could our representative of staff please take the lectern? Could you state your address?
I don't live in this.
Oh wait, you're my staff.
Yes.
Never mind.
You know me?
I can't hear what you're saying.
I'm sorry, sir.
Could you speak more clearly, please?
The staff has studied the report and it meets all the guidelines. Thank you.
Thank you for that eye-opening presentation. Staff has performed ably and in the similar manner to all previous staff presentations. We now welcome the petitioner to approach the lectern.
Thank you for having us, committee members. My name is Vince Graham. I'm presenting on behalf of my family, my brother Geoff and father Tom. We were in our I live here, I moved from Beaufort. Victor Dover, esteemed planner, and transportation engineer Rick Hall are with me to present this plan. Before we begin, they're from Florida, but they're, that's south of the Mason-Dixon line, so it's okay. I'd like to review a little bit of context. To remind y'all, we came here to Mount Pleasant in 1995.
Please state how long you've been in Mount Pleasant.
Well, as I said, we came here in 1995, so that would be 27 years. Yeah, we didn't have any of our family members fight at Fort Sumter that we know of. We're not sure about that, but we are from the South. As I said, we back in 1995, we retained two planning firms we thought were the best in the country, DPZ and Dover Cole and Partners. And so we came up with a plan. The idea was that, given that, as y'all well know, cities are evolutionary bodies. They grow, the real cities do. They grow and they change. And so that was always the idea, that we would have something that would, a neighborhood that was inspired by the city of Charleston, the old village of Mount Pleasant, these historic areas that we love, that had a variety of housing, and that were allowed to evolve. And so what you see, if you've been over to Ion before, I know that's on the north side of Mathis Ferry Road, so maybe some of you haven't been this far, but if you have been, it's what you see, we consider the first draft of the neighborhood. So that was, it was approved in 1997. I'll talk a little bit about the master plan that was in effect at the time. The town's master plan spoke to the benefits of traditional neighborhood development, that they called it at the time, and it used as a model for that the old village of Mount Pleasant. And it actually specified this site as a great site for such a development, mixed-use development. Just to review some of the elements of the master plan, you see the highlighted section.
Thank you. I'm afraid you're out of time.
Could we see the rest of the presentation? Because we have to vote on it later, so I think we all need to be as well informed as possible.
Is that motion seconded? By another member of the committee? You may proceed.
Okay, thank you. Appreciate that. So under land use, you see the master plan called for encouraging traditional neighborhood development forms modeled on the old village and new developments, to create a pleasing diversity among residential communities through traditional and innovative design, and to locate residential development in relation to the availability of employment, commercial services, public utilities, facilities, and transportation routes. It also said to encourage traditional development form in areas where street systems and or adjacent development suggest are appropriate. So during the planning process, we had a blessing of the land ceremony. This is from 1995. Folks who were involved in our initial design charrette, and some of whom refused to walk into the marsh as part of this ceremony, like this guy, Andres Duani. He was scared, and some of his team. But anyway, but we had this design charrette way back in the day, and we adopted, as part of our declaration for the neighborhood, a declaration, and among the values were to the appropriateness of change and adaptability. So I'll just share this with you. In recognition that time and circumstance may alter the appropriateness of certain provisions, we recognize that the evolution of a community is a dynamic process in which the key to success is the ability to adapt to those inevitable changes in order to remain responsive to residents and the generations to follow. One of our goals when we started out, I set forth, again, it was recorded in 98, we wrote it in 97, so 25 years ago, was to build an exemplary model for the state, which arouses citizenry to restore and improve upon her great planning and architectural traditions, in order that her built environment be enhanced and her natural environment conserved for the benefit of ourselves and future generations. Over time, these are two slides that show the taxable land value per acre, the value created. In the middle here is the city of Charleston. This is the beach, Sullivan's Island and Isle of Palms, Folly Beach, Kiowa. You can see the very high values per acre of those places. And looked at it from another angle, this is Ion. The estimated total value of that neighborhood now is $1.5 billion. That's the value that's been created on that site. So, we'll get into the proposal in a minute. And so now I'd like to turn it over to the planning firm led by Victor Dover. Thank you.
Please state
As an
the
aside,
name.
you need to know that the idea of having the chair interrupt the presenter before they even got the first few words out was inspired by the fact that that actually happened in Summerfield, North Carolina in the last several weeks.
Please state the names of your pets.
My name is Victor Dover. I'm a town planner and urban designer in Coral Gables, Florida. At one point, while we were examining the land and there was nothing here but open fields and dirt mines and woods, Joseph Cole went out into the woods and found the need to practice the timing on that comedy. And found a ruin of the monument that marked the gravesite of Jacob Bond Ion. And in his sketchbook, this is a view of his sketchbook from that day, he reassembled those pieces, and we would like to suggest to you that the great plan, actually in the spirit of the original plan for Charlestown, which was called the Grand Model, Mr. Graham and his family called the plan that we generated together in that charrette the Grand Plan. And while much of that Grand Plan was smashed and broken before we got to the end of the approval process, we might in fact reassemble some aspects of it, and this presentation will show you a couple of those.
What is your favorite pudding?
Charles Barrett, who, as an illustrator and designer, provided the visual voice for the new urbanism movement in all of its early years, did the drawings that came, the illustrations that came out of that charrette. And it was a case study in starting with the kind of scenes we would like to create in public space and then figuring out how to get those into the map. And we all miss the late, great Charles. We also weren't entirely sure where Ion was. Now, what I mean is, we weren't entirely sure where the property would ultimately end. And we ended up designing plans for this triangle of land on the southwest and this band of land on the east that ultimately were not included. And then this beautiful Milton Grenfell drawing that came in years later shows how the plan evolved. And you are seated right there. Now, Charles's drawings illustrated something pretty important because Andres Duany was beginning to talk about how bored he was in the first days of the charrette. And he said, this is 240 acres? 240 acres. And Mr. Duany said, I'm going to be really bored if it's all the same thing. And I've got an idea for how we can make the experiences much more varied and interesting. And he said, we should make parts of it rural and other parts of it downright urban. And we should have a range between the rural and the urban, which in subsequent years, he began to refer to as the rural to urban transect. And that idea was gestated right here at Ion. Now, if you look at the southern parts of Ion that are closest to the square, they are the most cityfied. And if you go to the northernmost parts of Ion, closest to the marsh, they are the most relaxed and organic and curbless. And that was the original depiction of the idea of the rural to urban transect. Although I think Charles imagined that the rural part would be way more rural than it actually turned out. And he certainly envisioned that the urban part would be way more complete than it actually is. Because the original vision included attached housing, row houses. It included multifamily housing, apartments, and live-work units, and more. Now, as some of you probably know, the original design idea was rejected by the town of Mount Pleasant, and a revised version of it was later approved. And in the process, much of the urban part was eliminated. And so that's that. But the fundamentals of the plan, the bone structure of streets and blocks, was not. It's,
Order, please.
so we said, all right, what might be here that wasn't quite pulled off, and what of those original ideas might be brought back? Well, one of the ideas was that Mathis Ferry Road, which was kind of pretty at the time, it's prettier now, could have its tree canopy restored, and that Ion at what ultimately became the intersection where the roundabout occurs could have a little bit of urbanity come out and kiss Mathis Ferry Road. Just a couple of flanking country store, roadside buildings that would be the first things you would see. And the plan that I showed you had two building sites, one there and one there on either side of the roundabout, on the north side of the roundabout facing south. And why is that important? Because today, when we go to that site, those buildings are not there, and we enter Ion by being greeted by the back sides of the buildings that face the square. Let me demonstrate. Like this. But in Ion 2.0, we think we ought to be able to come back and build on those sites so that the fronts of buildings will greet our neighbors and visitors as they arrive, like this. The square has been evolving in a nice way, but there's only so much we could fit because of the cap on non-residential development. The commercial is capped here at 30,000 square feet, which is a very small amount, and of course all of it is away from the road. We envision, though, that now that the chapel is here, it's starting to become more complete. In the future, it could even grow landmarks we could see from the square, and if the commercial cap was changed, it might be able to be more complete. We gathered, Mr. Chair, as you know, we had 75 meetings with the neighborhood, and at each of them we did keypad polling. There was also a word cloud in which many of you participated. And we asked people, what life stages are the most underserved in Ion? Click all that apply. It turns out every age group is, to some extent, underserved in Ion. But the active go-go retirees are the most happy, and the people who are 3 years older than the go-go retirees are the least happy. We heard from many people that they raised their children in a really big house in Ion with really high ceilings, and now they call the Mount Pleasant Fire Department to help them change the light bulbs in their cathedral ceiling because they're all by themselves in there. And so they would like to be able to have a place to live in Ion as they grow older and don't want to maintain that large house without having to leave their friends and leave their favorite walking paths. We also asked them, is it going? There we go. We asked people in those meetings, what would make Ion more complete? And in keeping with the last response, the largest number of people who responded said more variety of housing types. By the way, something was missing from everybody's point of view. So keeping it all the same may not have worked out the way it was intended. The second most popular choice about what would make Ion more complete is more variety of commerce and employment.
Business brings crime.
You guys are really getting into this. I like it. As it turns out, there is a small patch of land, or a couple of them, but the most important and substantial one on the western side of the property that was not developed. And at one point, somebody called that Phase 11, but we realized that it is so mysterious to the people of Ion. It's more like Area 51 out in the Nevada desert. So now we refer to this as Area 51. And the question is, what could Area 51 be? And the answer is that Area 51 could be the place where Ion has some of those things it wasn't allowed to have in the first place. like multifamily buildings, like attached housing in the form of row houses, like small cottages that are not necessarily on great big lots.
I'm getting dizzy.
And Area 51 could probably in the process also provide some new public spaces and some spaces that are shared by everybody, including now that we have the go-go's taken care of and we have the no-go's taken care of, we could even have a place for the dungons because a columbarium could be a feature of this. By the way, cemeteries and columbariums are a phenomenal land use. We can get up to 1,000 units an acre and nobody ever tell. And there's no traffic generated from that land use. We have multiple plans for what Area 51 could be like, and many of you went on today's official town fact-finding mission to Earl's Court and Catfiddle Street. And here you see buildings that the Graham and Ion team has built, plus some building footprints that were from the 1995 charrette, arrayed on the land in a Catfiddle Earl's Court format.
Is this actual size?
I said they were small, they're not that small. Now we are applying here the famous James Howard Kunstler's theory, working theory of history, which is, it seemed like a good idea at the time. And I want to walk you through what seemed like a good idea at the time and what we might want to change about that in the future. Of course, it's been 250 years since Ion was originally prepared.
Swipe right.
Since Ion was originally planned, it's been 250 years, so we can think about it. Oh, is it 25? 25 years, okay. At the time, it seemed like a good idea to limit development here to 762 dwelling units precisely. And the other day somebody said, how did they know that 763 would have been the wrong number? The answer, of course, is if you don't. If you can't tell that 763 is the wrong number or the right number, you don't know what to think about 765, or any other number. So probably planning by the number is the wrong approach, and we should eliminate the cap on dwelling units in Ion. A few YIMBYs in the group. Number two, as we've heard explained to us in numerous sessions during the symposium that led to tonight's hearing, minimum parking requirements are the spawn of the devil. And so we propose to abolish minimum parking regulations. We propose to cap the height, not at an arbitrary number, but at the number that would match the firefighting equipment in the town of Mount Pleasant. The lot coverage, this is serious now, the lot coverage, originally 65 and 60% at Ion, was arbitrarily lowered by the town of Mount Pleasant to 40% recently. That's actually true part of the story, which is ridiculous. And so we propose to adjust the lot coverage to allow a reasonable amount of land to build. The 40%, of course, is a device designed to make it harder to build and keep fewer people from wanting to be part of Ion. So that's why they also banned apartments. We've recommended a one-word change to the ordinance that governs planned development in Ion. We remove the word ban and replace it with the word encourage. Row houses were prohibited. Encourage traditional row houses. Houses, big houses at Ion, some of you may have noticed, are approximately the same size and solar shadow of small hotels. In the future, it may be necessary to allow some of these large houses to be subdivided into multiple units. And for that matter, some of the large lots could also be subdivided. Earlier, yesterday, someone flashed the plan of Savannah, which we all know was begun as a single-family detached house, large lot, low-density subdivision. But they were allowed to elegantly change it. And of course, as they subdivided lots, parents would offer that new small lot on the side as a dowry or as a wedding present, and their families could grow right there. We think the same thing should be allowed in Ion. Zoning was used as a very effective tool to allow, and allow only, single-family housing. So ION 2.0 is the right place to eliminate single-family only zoning. And the commercial uses which are presently capped, the cap should be lifted, and the live-work combinations which were prohibited should be permitted. And in ION 2.0, we weren't allowed to put any buildings near Fastest Ferry Road, and we think the missing architecture at the center and at the entrance should be allowed. And that is the essence of our proposal. I want to make you aware that there is a larger picture. At the time that
You will have
I'm
your
doing what I
chance
would
to
actually
speak.
do in a real hearing, which is ignore that guy. At the time when ION was being planned, the property that is between Mathis Ferry Road and the through-going Highway 17, Johnny Dodds Boulevard, was vacant. The proposal to build IONs downtown on that commercially zoned property was outflanked by a corporate proposal to build a buy-low grocery store, L-shaped strip shopping center instead. Now dead. There is no more buy-low. And the shopping center is gasping. We think in the future, we're going to want to come back and visualize a world in which ION gets what it always needed, which is the last borough of ION, the Jordan commercial tract. And so here's the sketch that was done in 1999 to illustrate the potential for this idea, which would have included some of the things that I mentioned, like attached housing, live, work, and mixed use, and a grocery store. But there is a still larger picture. Because we know we're not on an asteroid in Mount Pleasant. We are part of everything, and everything is part of us. And the biggest feature in Mount Pleasant is Johnny Dodds Boulevard. Johnny Dodds Boulevard, it turns out, has, thanks to Mr. Hall and the East Cooper Planning Council led by Mr. Graham, a plan for converting it into a multi-lane, multi-way boulevard. Rick, would you explain what that is?
Which way goes to the right here? Multi-way boulevards. They were done in Brooklyn in the 1800s. They had more intelligence then than many people have today. So we're going to go with the multi-way boulevard. Yeah.
Are you from Florida?
I am. But I'll have you know, sir, I am registered in 27 states as a professional engineer.
Are you as registered as Chuck Maroon?
Much more, much more. I got registered because somebody turned me in for not being registered in South Carolina. And I paid $4,000 in fees. True story, true story. I learned that if you wrote a memo that said the level of service on Maple Street is B, you had to sign and seal that sucker. So I did. So I'm very qualified to talk about a multi-way boulevard.
I'm afraid you're out of time.
That's what my wife tells me all the time. So I've learned to ignore that. The multi-way boulevard has the wonderful capability to run longer distance trips down the center on 4 lanes of traffic and then take care of slow-moving traffic against residential and commercial as you enrich the corridor with a great deal of depth. Now, as it stands now, you have a 2-way frontage road like they have in Texas. It's a very useless kind of facility that's adjacent to the 4 middle lanes. Very much useless. When they get to the intersections, they have to bow way out so you won't run into a queue of traffic that's caused by improper construction. So you have multiple trees. Each of the sides of the multi-way boulevard allows you to plant grand oak trees in 5 or 6 different rows. So within a short period of time, you'll have a virtual forest out there and shade to take care of all the pedestrians. So. So the roundabout is another good way to take care of the traffic. You know, most people in cities, they oppose roundabouts because they're afraid of them. They're wimps. So every city that I've been to, when they get one roundabout in and the wimps learn how to use it, next year they have 7. That's the way it works. True story. So here we have the existing highway of Johnny Dodge. You see the bridge in the background. See the 2 bridges? And there's the highway in the middle. And what we have here is a frontage road. And you can see the SUV headed the other way and another car headed this way. Very, very confusing. Very confusing. So the first thing you do is you create parking and the opportunity to build stores right against the slow-moving lanes. These lanes only go 20 miles an hour, and those will go 40. Beautiful, beautiful separation. And then you begin to plant trees, and we know that trees give shade so that pedestrians will come out of their houses and actually engage the fresh air. Now we have a good friend named Steve Price who creates these beautiful images. They're almost like photographs. And he's like, who was the movie maker that put himself in the movies? The scary? Alfred Hitchcock always was a cameo appearance. Well, Steve Price is right here. This is Steve Price. That's his cameo appearance.
Please limit your comments to the proposal.
And you could even think about this maturing further with residential instead of commercial. So whatever you want, you can do on the edges like a real city. So we're very high on the multi-way boulevards and some other things, I guess. Okay, or you could just do this. You could leave it like this. How bland. I mean, people in other parts of the country would talk about you for leaving it like this instead of doing this.
Thank you, Mr. Hall. So in the spirit of thinking boldly and, as George Bush would say, bigly, we want to introduce another concept. Victor talked about the thinking outside our envelope. And so I want to introduce you to Deltaport, which is the port in Vancouver, 210 acres. It's along the Georgia Straits. And this port by itself handles more containers each year than all the ports in Charleston put together. This is the size of it. It's actually next door to a ferry terminal. They have ferries in Vancouver. And it is the most advanced ship-to-rail terminal in the world. So as we showed you, we look to precedents that work through history, time-tested precedents. So we think this idea could be, it's, again, bigly idea, but we think that we could move the Wando Welch terminal over to the new Leatherman terminal. There would be room for that.
Now you've really lost your mind.
One of the things this would do, and I think we have some neighbors who live here, the DOT plans to widen 526 for a cost of $4 billion.
As God intended.
So, just show you some illustrations. So this is how big the Wando Welch terminal is. This is the Wando terminal overlaid on the peninsula of Mount Pleasant. Charleston, sorry, Charleston. And this is it overlaid on the historic district of Savannah, to give you context about how big the Wando Welch terminal is. Savannah too. So there would actually be room to build new terminals of the size of the Delta Port, both down at the Leatherman terminal and up at the North Charleston terminal, to handle as much capacity, as much containers as could be imagined. And we would free up that land at the Wando Welch terminal for new development. So saving, we would not have to widen 526, save $4 billion, return the property over there at the Wando Welch terminal is currently on the property tax rolls for $0. And this would enable the development to be worth tremendously more. So, yeah, I know.
It is often asked, how many Charlestonians does it take to change a light bulb? Change. Oh, very good. All right. Perhaps the only thing that stands in the way of these bold proposals is our inertia and resistance. Mr. Chair, we've concluded our presentation. We look forward to all the questions you and your committee members may have, and we are also planning to post everything that these people say on the Justice Department's Fair Housing website.
Thank you so much. I now encourage members of the committee to make thinly veiled prejudicial comments in the form of questions to the applicant. I should ask, yes, Ms. Sonyas to begin.
Well, first of all, thank you so much for an amazing presentation. Yes, ION has been so successful that we've put it in our general plan as something that we should generally be imitating. And so I really welcome the opportunity for the original developers to continue working on it. Our community will be much worse off if we try to push this development down the road indefinitely, and then who knows who might redevelop those empty parcels. That would be worse. But actually, can you tell us exactly, it sounds like there's two things we're supposed to vote on, this road, and then also maybe three things inside of ION. What are exactly our proposals?
It's take it or leave it. We have a redevelopment of ION. We have a new highway becoming a my way, and a new container port. We are asked to vote on all three simultaneously.
I propose splitting these into a number of motions.
Does the applicant accept this change?
Our attorney said take whatever we could get.
The committee should act on this motion. All in favor of splitting? We will get there. All in favor of splitting the motions, say aye. All opposed? Nay.
Nay.
I'm sorry, we shall not split the motions. Therefore, making dinner come that much sooner.
Mr. Chair, I have a number of questions. As you know, and as I think everybody here should know or will know soon, I spent 4 decades working at the State Department of Transportation.
But I hear you've chucked out.
There's a lot. Well, I retain my license to this day in good standing. Mr. Chair, I'd ask that the room be respectful as I ask my questions. Back when I-26 was originally constructed, I was part of that project. And when we were doing that, we ran into a lot of soil issues. And I've reviewed your application. I went through it. I don't see any soil boring data provided at all. In fact, I was thinking you should have soil borings every 10 feet or so. And
There was plenty of boring data in that
I don't feel in good
report.
conscience that I can vote for this application without that data and knowledge. Do you have any knowledge? Why? have you consulted? I know you did this prayer thing beforehand. Did you consult God on what the soil conditions were? How can we be certain that we're not going to be turning over substandard roads to the city? I can't in good conscience do that.
I'll allow my engineer to speak to that point.
That, sir, is the most boring comment that I've ever heard in any public meeting. Do you, sir, have...
Mr. Chair, I
Do you
believe
have-
I asked a question.
Do you have a partial interest in this boring company that drills down and drills down and drills down? Really?
Mr. Chair,
Our talks with Elon Musk have been suspended.
moving on. I was at a conference back in the mid-1990s, and there was a presentation at that conference where an engineer pointed out an instance where a school bus was traveling in one direction while a fire truck responding to an emergency was going in the other direction. And someone ended up dying in that house because the fire truck was not able to get there in time. I'm wondering, with the size of the streets that you're proposing, and I'll note that Victor Dover represented that he's not a licensed engineer, so I don't know who's actually designing the width of the streets here. Are you willing to accept the death of people in your development when the fire truck is not able to get to the homes on time because of the width of the streets that you plan? Again, I, in good conscience, cannot vote for such death to occur.
Well, just for context, again, there have been 2 fires in the neighborhood over the last 25 years, and the fire department was able to service to get to those fires quickly and put them out.
So this is a risk that you are willing to take.
As a fellow of the American Institute of Certified Planners, I have recommended to Mr. Graham, as I recommend to all
By the way, it
clients,
means little to me, but it's,
recommended to, I thought it might. I recommend to all our clients that these are in fact public policy and real estate decisions, which are inevitably, and in every case, made based on emotional responses and not on data. So we've decided not to have actual data, but only to have emotional responses. Thank you.
May we hear from, oh, you have another comment.
One quick comment, because we can't let that go. We've done, I looked at my PE registration for South Carolina, number 275848276, for the record. And I initiated an investigation into that death. And it turns out that underage person was watching a Halloween movie and died of fright.
Mr. Chair,
So
this
just
is
saying.
coming from the supposed engineer who said we should build roads like they did in Brooklyn in the 1800s, but I'll note they did not have automobiles. I don't know how that is going to work. Also, just as a final comment, it's hard for me to support a proposal that relies on roundabouts in this way. Roundabouts are very European. I feel like we fought a war against Europe, and we definitely do not want to be importing European ideas into our southern community. Thank you. I will not be supporting anything with this development.
As my name is Marina, I particularly dislike your plan because it does not include any goopy bob lollipops. And all the plans that I have reviewed and liked include lollipops, so nah.
Mr. Chair, I would like to raise a point of order. I think it is inappropriate for one of the committee members to be married to one of the consultants and not recuse herself from a decision this important.
It does not seem to have impacted her objective review. I believe we've heard enough from the presenters and ourselves, but I believe now it is time to welcome you all. Please form a well-composed line approaching the lectern, and you may individually, if you wish, each speak for at most 60 seconds your feelings about this project. Thank you.
Mr. Chair, as you're doing that, I'm going to just note for the record that I'm going to play solitaire and pretend to be bored.
I now encourage the committee to pull out their cell phones.
Is this on? Because I can project, okay? I got something to say, man. Now, I don't know who your planners are. This gentleman here claims to be from the South. I was told he was from the South. He's from Miami. That is not the South. That's another country. Everybody knows in Miami you got to go north to get to the South. When I hear Miami, I think Democrats. I think communism. I saw your desire to annex your Crimea, Mr. Putin, and I don't like it. But I have a more serious point that I'd like to make, and that is this. I bought a house in this neighborhood 25 years ago. You told me that I was going to be the only one, well, that I would only be amongst other single-family houses, detached units, and now you're bringing in all kinds of people who I don't know, who couldn't afford to live here. My house is now worth $3.5 million. I don't know how many rubles that is, sir. And I watch the birds, I watch the foxes, I watch other species I cannot identify. And I believe, sir, and this is serious, you asked God for permission, but you didn't talk to me. I think that you were being dishonest when you came in front of this council 25 years ago and said this is what it was going to be. And now you want to finish what you started, which is the devaluation of my property, increase stress on the infrastructure, more housing units, more people, more parties, more noise, more cars, more police. God only knows what else.
Mr. Chair,
What about
can
me?
we limit this to 1 minute? Because I have bedtime in about half an hour.
I'm done. That is my concern. I was lured into buying this property under false pretenses by this
Thank you for your
Russian
comments.
agent.
Thank you for your comments. 60 seconds, please.
Well, I won't need that much, but thank you. I don't know much about housing, but this seems like a pretty nice place, and these seem like pretty nice folks, except for those from Florida, but that's fine. So I stand in favor of this as it stands, but I'm willing to reconsider that position. Thank you.
Thank you for your brevity.
That man doesn't know what he's talking about. He's a carpetbagger just like these guys. These people are not indigenous. They're not from here. They don't know our values. They don't know our lifestyle. And they're here to make money. I'm telling you, behind this is a desire. It's greed. I'm just going to lay it out. It's a bunch of greed. And all this fancy stuff here, you see it, you saw it. It made my stomach churn because it was moving so fast. It was a smoke screen. I'm telling you, it was meant to bamboozle us into saying yes to this. This plan is ridiculous. They're talking about moving an entire complex of large things that move big containers off of ships to someplace else. That's ridiculous. And that's just the tip. You can see what I'm saying? That's usually impractical, but it epitomizes the strange thinking of these outsiders. And I'm just saying I'm totally against this. And I'm willing to put my life on the line for this. I am so against it.
Thank
I
you.
didn't go over my time.
Thank you so much. You were 59 seconds.
Hi, I'm from Ohio. I just moved here about 2 weeks ago. I work in tech. I'm a strong believer in Agenda 21. I think climate change is crucial. And Vince's check cleared, so I'm here to speak today on behalf of this project. I'm here specifically to advance the communist notion that people should be allowed to do what they like with their property. Naturally, I support this project and encourage the commission to do the same. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
in 1718, fleeing persecution in France. We moved, 2 generations later, we moved up the Black River, founded Kingstree in Luzon, South Carolina. Captain Henry Muzon map of North and South Carolina was the first accurate map of the area. So I'm kind of local, but I've been gone for a while. Question. Well, all my life, actually. Mr. Dover, Mr. Graham, we didn't trust you 25 years ago. Why should we trust you now?
Just look around if you moved in.
The applicant, the commenter is encouraged to speak for another minute because my pappy knew his pappy.
That's known as a softball. You should take it.
Well, you moved here. I think you appreciate the quality. We endeavor to advance that level of quality, to raise the bar again and make it even better than it is.
Mr. Chair, I believe we've already heard from the applicant. Point of order.
I encourage more citizens to speak. Or you're just holding a sign, sir. You wish to speak with your sign.
I just want to say there's one word that the presenters never mentioned, and I think it tells us everything when we never heard the word children. What about the children in this proposal? There was no discussion.
Good evening, folks. I'm Jacob, what's his name? Jacob Bon Ion the 16th. And I've been living in this community for, wow, over 60 minutes. And I have to tell you that all of these ideas just aren't going to work. And I've been here a long time. I know the people, and I'm telling you, it's just not going to work.
Thank you.
Thank you for allowing me to speak to you today. I moved here 27 years ago. Oh, my name is Stephen Broxton. I moved here 27 years ago and immediately learned that these developers with dollar signs in their eyes were seeking to destroy our community, the community that I had beloved for almost 2 years. And so I fought that initial plan. They're bringing it back now. I fought that plan tooth and nail. And what I enabled them to build here on the Jordan Tract, which now they call Ion, I enabled them to build this beautiful place that we have today. Were it not for me and people like me, we would not have this wonderful place as it is. And now they're coming back again and trying to destroy it. I moved into this neighborhood just a few years after I allowed them to develop it as it is. Dollar signs in their eyes. And now they're trying to destroy it again. And it's obvious that we need to not let that happen, and we need to stand firm. It is good, unchanged. It should never change. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
I'm a banana. That means ban everything now. I don't know what I'm talking about, so just wait a second. I gotta get a call in my ear here. Give me the message. Give me the message. Joe Cole, you there? You're an expert. Tell me what I gotta say now, because I'm on the stage. What do I gotta say? Joe, don't leave me hanging here. Okay. Now I know what I gotta say. I gotta say that you guys are bad. You guys are really bad. Joe, why are they bad? Tell me, why are they bad? I gotta tell them. What? I don't understand that. It doesn't matter. I don't understand why you're bad, but you guys are bad, and we're for everything, never. And that guy, how much is he paying you, man? Because Joe, when's that check coming in? How much is it? Because I could flip here anytime. I could flip. I could flip. No, give me the tell me the money. No, no, no. Okay. So I'm actually for this. I'm for this. This is the best idea I've ever heard in my life. I don't have an idea in my head. I get my ideas from people that got money. And so, God bless you guys. I love it. Make it happen.
Thank you for your comments. Yes, Bubba.
My name is John, and I live on Johnny Dodds Boulevard, and I happen to like it just fine the way it is. And I'm just here to warn you, if you all vote for this plan, Mount Pleasant will forever be known as Mount Pheasant, because it will be strictly for the birds.
I would just like to re-approach the stand and say that while I came out in support before, it has come to my attention that this developer may be bad, and I don't like that. So I am recanting my support. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much. Are there any further public comments?
There's been a lot of talk tonight about this family and the dollar signs in their eyes, but it's you people I want to talk to. You vote for this, and I assure you, we're going to vote every one of you out of office. It's going to happen. Mr. Graham, I met you out here October of 1995. We walked out there, and you presented this grand vision to me. And now here you are again. Do you really think that you're going to go before these characters again? You still got hair, though. I give you that. I don't. I've been in about 10 lawsuits. I've had my business. What do they do with the Department of Revenue? I had it audited. I've been ridiculed. I've been run out of town. But you know what, Mr. Graham? I can't play it anymore. Brother, you're the best thing that ever happened to the town of Mount Pleasant. I thank you and your family for everything you've done, and I love you. Thank you.
Quick editorial comment. Thanks, Paul Gartz, who championed us on council 27 years ago.
If there are no further public comments, I will welcome motions.
I want to thank everybody for coming out. It's really always a pleasure to hear from everyone in the community. And we've heard a wide range of opinions here. You know, we heard from people who are supportive.
Mr. Chair, is there a motion in the future here?
Yeah, but I'm an elected official, so I'm making a long speech. Get with the program.
Trying to save your seat.
Anyway, so some things I really like about your proposal is that it will increase tax revenues. There's a lot of public services people come here and ask us for, and we love to have money to be able to pay for them. You want better parks, better recreation department, better roads. We have to have money for that. So I like that part of it. I like the idea of people being able to age in place. I liked your idea of even expanding the cemetery so they can completely age in place. They can die in place. So I'm going to put a motion. Oh, and I love the forest replacing the parts of the highway. Anyway, I'd like to make a motion to approve all three aspects of the project: new multifamily housing at Ion, the road renovation, and moving the terminal. And I guess guys, like, how did you only do? What are you going to do with the terminal?
Thank you for your motion. May we have our votes, please? Chuck Doubt?
Nay.
Mary Na? Sonia, your vote is ya?
Yes.
I also vote.
motion, so I'm going to stick with
I also
that.
vote yes. It seems we have a tie. Therefore, the motion
Mr. Chair,
is
I'd
suspended.
like to make
Do we have other motions?
I'd like to make a second motion, Mr. Chair. I make a motion that we deny this application. Instead of making a big grandstanding speech, I'm going to give findings of fact. Findings that without the proper soil borings, without the proper street width, lacking information on traffic flow and adequate amounts of parking, the embracing of roundabouts, and the complete reference to 1800s type development patterns along Johnny Dobbs Boulevard, I find this application to be completely out of touch. And I recommend that we deny it. I'm also just going to note for the record that I also volunteer on the state licensing board for engineers, and will be bringing up the development team to the board for inquiry and potential censure. So, thank you.
We have the motion. If you wish to deny, you must say yes. I know that sounds strange. Chuck Doubt, you wish to say?
Yes, deny.
Sonias?
No, we can't deny this project tonight.
Marina? I forgot what I said. I vote nah to not deny the project. No, wait, what happened? However, you'll notice that MIA Ham is not here. As a member of the audience so astutely commented, we do have another vote present. And I suggest we leave it all to the first word that comes out of the baby. That's a no.
Clearly no.
Thank you all so much for coming tonight.
Mr. Chair, can we cut the number of units in half?
Mr. Chair,
Is there a further petition?
I make a motion that we table this application indefinitely.
I suggest we reconvene in 25 more years to do this again.
We'll be there.
Thank you all for coming.
Thank you indeed for our committee. So we have a little presentation that outside, so if everybody could proceed outside, we have a surprise.